the first heard story. Now, how powerful is the first heard story? Check this out. Every year at dozens of institutions, and I don't mean, well, yeah, colleges are mental institutions, but at universities all over the United States, there's a cool social psychological project that works like this. You get 2 booklets, okay? Draw this. And you have 2 groups of people, okay, 24 in each. That's pretty standard for testing. And in this booklet, it says that your current president of the United States, they've done this since Nixon, it says your current president, and it tells a story about how he behaved and reacted in some situation. And in this booklet, it says he's a moron, basically. This is not that hard to predict anymore. And then over here, there's a story that shows how compassionate, wonderful, kind, and loving and sweet he is, okay? So this is the good story over here, okay? Now, what happens is the professor gives this to these students, the professor gives this to these students. They then are asked a series of questions about the president, okay, to evaluate the president on various character traits, okay? Now, they live in the same country, they go to the same school, they have the same friends, they have the same beliefs, they have, right? I mean, this is a class of people, all right? But after the people have been through this and after they've read this article, and the article is not directly attacking or directly supporting, it's just telling a story. That's all. It's just a story. I have it on the other side. Power of the first heard story, okay? So now you asked to evaluate the president on these criteria. Now, neither knows the other person was told the opposite story, okay? So you get what you would expect. You get a little bit more negative here and a little bit more positive here than you would anticipate when compared to each other. And this was to be expected, okay? And when you're told a good story about somebody who's you think is an idiot, then you're like, well, maybe he's not a total idiot. That's basically how we think as people, right? Because I couldn't be possibly wrong, okay? So therefore, it must be that he's not a total idiot, but there's a partial, something positive there. Now, that's cool, but what's really cool is this. Nobody knows in the audience that they were given 2 different sets of booklets. The professor goes up to the front of the stage and he says, folks, I got to tell you something. I got to be honest with you. What you just read was a total lie. A total lie. Everything that you have just read about, in this case, President Bush, in the last case, Clinton, before, and all the way back to Nixon, the story's the same every single year. It's just a different president they plug in. It's a total lie. It's not true. I lied. I totally made it up. We just typed it up for you guys. That's a lie, too. It's been around for 30 years, but that's okay, too. So it's a total lie. Don't believe any of it. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. This is just not true. It's not an accurate representation of who that person is. We totally fabricated this, totally made the whole thing up. Now, you guys over here who got the really cool, good story about how nice President was, okay, you're like, oh, that's really a shame. And then when you test them in 30 days, they have the exact same results as they did today. And over here, the people who got the president's a really terrible, evil person, you know, the story about that, and then you test them in 30 days, you get the exact same response. In other words, I've told you I lied. I totally lied. I swear to God, I lied. I really did. I'm lying that I lied. I lied. Everything in that thing was fabricated, totally made up out of thin air. Made up of thin air. Doesn't matter. It's the power of the first heard story. What they heard first is what they're going to believe, okay? And it doesn't matter that there was disconfirming evidence by the person who told the story. Are you with me? It doesn't matter that you're now saying that, well, that's just not true. It's not really what, blah, blah, blah. I can tell this now because he's 9. I told my son 2 years ago, we had the conversation, the Santa Claus conversation. That's a tough conversation in America. I don't know if this is big in the Netherlands, but you basically got to tell your son, because he says, Daddy, and my son's like, he reads New Scientist magazine. I mean, to me, he's like, Daddy, did you know that photons and quarks and glue? And he's reading on it. I'm like, can I give you a comic book, please? You know. So he says, Daddy, how does Santa Claus get down the chimney? Is that quantum mechanics? I'm like, okay, I can either really go big, or I say, son, no. I go, the fact of the matter is that there is no Santa Claus. Okay? And he goes. And he gets a little tear in his eye, right? Okay? And he's sad, just like I was when I was a kid, right? I mean, it's like, oh my God. Last year, when we had Christmas, he said, Daddy, what time do I have to go to bed so Santa Claus will come? Now, is my kid just, I mean, this is me, right? I'll forget this, okay? But the fact that he forgets it, that's a pretty big thing. There's like, you know, like your mom, dad, and Santa Claus, right? I mean, that's huge. But he forgot completely, like the conversation that we had the prior year had, and you guys have experienced this, right? I mean, it's bizarre. And the weird thing was, is we're telling this to friends of ours.